Hiring today is not just about a skill on your CV, it's about trust. But one wrong hire can cost a company not just money, but reputation, culture, and peace of mind. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Alignment Talks. And today we are going to talk about the topic every HR employee and employer should care about, which is background verification services. I'm really excited to have our guest today, Somrita Chatterjee from Spring Verified team, who brings deep expertise in background verification service. How the right checks save the companies and sometimes even employees from serious trouble. So let's begin by understanding the real shape of hiring today. So Som, सबसे पहले आप ये बताइए how it's been your journey and how you entered in background verification services.
So I think it was luck by chance, I believe, because I was purely in the SaaS industry. I was in an industry which created assessments for enterprises and mid enterprises. So I was doing that there. And at that point in time, I got to hear of Springworks, about Spring Verify and rewards and recognition platform and all of those things. And since it was still sort of catering to HR tech leaders, it's the same sort of module. That's when I decided that, okay, let's just try this out. I did not understand at that point in time that background verification is not as simple as it sounds. Uh, it is simple once you understand it, but for an absolute newcomer, when I went for my first background verification, it definitely felt extremely frightening to say the least. So yeah, so that's when I reached out to Karthik, had a chat with Anup, our CEO, and then yeah, everything fell in place.
Okay, so it's great like learning about your entering in the background services with Spring Verify. I guess you are doing a great job. आज हम हमारी audience को through this podcast we are trying to teach what exactly background verification services looks like and how these services facilitate employee and employer both. So I would like what are the new normal for us, like how these background verification services companies are rapidly opting.
Yeah. So background verification has been there for decades, I believe. Though its penetration is penetration and prevalence in multiple industries are extremely varied. So let's say in industries where people are just hired based on word of mouth, ideally they don't feel a lot of like even today, if you go into let's say smaller manufacturing hubs in let's say Pune or other places, don't feel a huge need for background verification, at least for the blue collar folks. So background verification, I would say, has had a very staggered growth. But I believe now with digital literacy getting to a stage where it is workforce is becoming much more diverse. Earlier, hiring was happening very much locally. You could ask, आप किसी को पूछ सकते हो, आप किसी को जानते हो और वो किसी और को जानता है और वैसे करके हायर हो जाते थे. लेकिन आज वैसा नहीं है. That entire culture is shifting, is metamorphosing into something else where workforces, where you can hire somebody you probably never met physically at the end of the day. So because of that, background verification is sort of becoming a very important sort of tool in the HR's sort of space, simply because it helps the organization maintain risk as well. It's a risk. I truly believe it's, when you look at background verification, it's probably part of risk management as well. For companies, when you're hiring somebody, you do an assessment, let's say, to figure out if the hire is good. You do culture fit assessment or a psychometric assessment. Very similarly to this, because this individual will come into your system, talk to people, handle your data, handle your customers' data, whatever it is. Every company will have some customer data for sure. So all of that happens. You would want that person to be who he is
Yes.
and who they are saying about it. So yeah, that is extremely important in the background verification space, and that's why I believe it has ballooned to where it is today. Yeah.
Yes, truly said. And I think earlier we see like still people they अच्छा रेफरेंस है किसी ने बताया कि अच्छा एम्प्लॉय रेफरेंस में भी या फिर कनेक्शंस अपने फैमिली कनेक्शंस रेफरेंस है वहीं से पीपल यूज टू हायर एंड दे डोंट गो वेरिफिकेशन एंड दे थॉट किसी की जान पहचान का बंदा है तो ठीक है उससे उनकी हायरिंग फास्ट भी हो रही है बट नाउ हायरिंग्स आर गोइंग रिमोट एंड इट्स ग्लोबली कंसर्न नाउ मे बी आज हमारे पास हम बाहर के एम्प्लॉयज से भी काम कराते हैं या फिर इंडिया के एम्प्लॉयज भी बाहर की कंपनीज के लिए काम कर रहे हैं आई थिंक यहाँ पर ये बहुत क्रूशियल हो जाता है सो हाउ बीन योर इनटेक इनटू दिस लाइक हाउ दीज इज हेल्पिंग अगर बाहर की कंपनीज हैं और इंडियन लेबर को वो यूज में ले रहे हैं अपनी कंपनीज के लिए देन हाउ इट्स बीन easy for them through this background verification services.
Okay. So let's first look at the macro trend, right? So employment has been on an all-time high. I'm not talking about employment as a percentage of all people liable to be employed as a high, always all-time high. But 2025, I believe, 24% increase था 2024 से in terms of the total number of people that were hired, including white collar, including different sort of industries like IT or GCCs, like you were talking about, global capability centers, जिनके लिए हमको इंडिया के टैलेंट हायर करते हैं बिकॉज इंडिया में डिमांड और सप्लाई दोनों के एंड पे काफी ज्यादा ट्रुथ बी टोल्ड अभी तो both of those parts are quite optimized. So there is a demand for Indian talent. So because of that, and because Indian partners also, Indian companies also want to hire not just locally, but probably from a tier 2 or tier 3 city. So that doesn't work through word of mouth. But they want to hire them because ideally they want to give chances to those people, and they also want to increase their pool, so to speak. Makes them get to better employees or makes them get to better candidates. So that trend definitely has been fueled by background verification because you don't know the person. You don't know anything about that person. You are hiring that person in order to give them access to sensitive data, whatever it is. So you want to make your basis correct so that in case there is a data breach or data sort of privacy problem or whatever it is, you at least have done your bit to protect against that unfortunate circumstance. So I think that is why background verification has now become absolutely essential. And it also sort of helps you understand sort of the health of the candidate in terms of legal or or let's say official sort of understanding, not just in terms of even the drug tests are also still part of background verification. People do that as well in certain industries. But I'm focusing more on the fact that, let's say, in terms of health, in terms of a particular individual giving proper identities, having done proper experiences, not fake education documents or employment documents. That particular health is extremely required because that is going to be germane to the work that you are doing in your company. So, yeah.
Correct. Very well said. And can we plot here an idea like if some companies go for background verification services for their coming employees, they are joining to them. So how many checks are there? Like what we exactly check when we are doing background service verification for an employee?
Okay. So ideally, there are 4 or 5 major checks which almost every company does if they want to do a sort of holistic background verification. Everything else is sort of an additional things which is precisely meant for their business use case. So let's say your ID, Akanksha is really Akanksha. Akanksha is not somebody else. So that is extremely important. You must have heard this story of this person who, I believe, Infosys This
Mhm.
person gave an interview in Infosys and gave an assignment in Infosys. The person who gave the assignment and the person who joined are both two different people.
Oh,
So yeah,
oh.
it was a registered thing. It got caught by a background verification agency, I'm sure, within
Mhm.
15 days or whatsoever. But originally, that person was hired and got access to all of those systems. Anyways, so an ID check is extremely important. Your criminal check is extremely important. We have
Mhm.
seen multiple cases where the candidate might have outstanding warrants in his name, or let's say
Mhm.
outstanding cases in his
Mhm.
name. So we search the entire database, which is the e-courts or FIR database, so to speak, to find any and all
Mhm.
criminal cases registered against that person.
Mhm.
There is education and employment as well, which are still very popular checks simply because they help you understand whether the person has actually been educated in the institution
Mhm.
that they are claiming to be, and if that is extremely important to the job. Same
Mhm.
goes for employment. So these are the checks, and plus address as well. Address, even though a lot of people are migrating from their permanent address to
Mhm.
current address in order to get these jobs, a
Mhm.
lot of companies do background verifications of both of these addresses to
Mhm.
see that if the candidate later on absconds with any company data or company
Mhm.
sort of property, then it can be tracked, so to speak.
Mhm.
Other than that, of course, there are other checks like credit check and all of those checks, but
Mhm.
that is very business specific. Let's say
Mhm.
a fintech firm definitely does a credit check
Right.
just to figure out the credit liability that a person carries while
Yes.
sort of working in their organization. So yeah, so these are precisely the few checks which ideally all companies do mostly.
Fintech people are very specific about the background checks and all. They do by default. But when it comes to normal companies like SMEs, maybe we can say startups, and they also hire people. And they actually, till the time, I guess you know the better data, like how is their set of mind? What is your struggle actually you faced when these small companies, when they are hiring their, maybe their team can be 50 people or 40 people or some other small teams in their organizations, but they try to skip these services. They so that this is an additional cost. Why should we should go for these kind of services to just check the and verify? They majorly trust on HR people and the hiring
True.
manager and the references. But what is your say on this? Like, is it the right service for startups and new coming companies when they are dealing with a very small team? Should their small team should be like background verified, or it's good practice?
So so see, when it comes to SMEs, you're correct.
Uh,
Ideally, they look at background verification as a line item
mm,
in their sort of Excel sheet, which they want to avoid. I have seen a lot of startups now warming up to the idea of background verification. Earlier, the problem was that there are two kinds of, like, majorly two different kinds of SMEs, right? One who has their own product and the one who is selling a service to somebody else.
mm,
So in the latter bit, what happens is that background verification almost becomes necessary. But the problem is that the candidate is hired and deployed within a very short span.
mm,
And the problem is a background verification, if their process is not set and all of those documents are not in place, what happens is that it leads to a delay, which they believe that, okay, could have been avoided if we did not do background verification at all. But
mm,
ideally, it helps protect them against any sort of liability coming from their customers as well. And when it comes to product folks, I believe uh, product SMEs or SMEs who have products to sell,
mm,
so to speak, also should opt for background verification, because ideally they should hire folks who have probably access to certain sort of company
mm,
data and all of those things. So those proprietary details ideally should be safeguarded. And this is
mm,
part of the risk management profile. Ideally, every company should do background verification in order to be sure that the person that they are hiring do not
mm,
have any outstanding legal cases, or let's say any sort of
mm,
uh, bad experiences with their previous employers, so to speak, any discrepancies in their past.
yeah.
So yeah, that is extremely important to do.
Yeah, great. And I think normally we say like we trust people easily. We trust like if they are from the some of our reference. If HR is saying, we say trust. But I guess the right practice is trust but verified. I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is also our logo or motto, what you would say. But yeah,
Uh,
yes, trust but verify. Because see, trust is extremely subjective,
hmm.
and it is also supposed to be boundless. So
uh,
you can't sort of base your business on an unbounded aspect.
hmm.
You please trust, and that's why, see, every hire at the end of the day has an element of trust built in it.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, even after doing all of this, let's say doing an assessment, let's say doing a background verification, you still don't know if this person will
Hmm.
going to perform or not. You
Hmm.
never know. किसी को पता नहीं है कि जो भी बंदा को वो हायर कर रहे हैं वो आके बहुत अच्छा काम करेगा कि नहीं करेगा, किसी को पता नहीं होता है. सो ट्रस्ट फैक्टर वहां पे रहने दीजिए, वो चांस दीजिए उसको. लेकिन अपने बिजनेस को सेफगार्ड करने के लिए जितने भी चीजें जरूरी है in order for your business to be safeguarded, I believe they should be able to do that as well at the end of the day. And earlier background verification used to be very costly.
Hmm.
अभी उतना है भी नहीं. सो
हाँ.
अभी तो वो लाइन आइटम भी इतना बड़ा नहीं दिखेगा आपको जो पहले
हाँ.
दिखता था. सो देयर इज नो वे यू शुड अवॉइड दैट स्टेप
Correct.
नाउ एटलीस्ट.
हाँ. Post
यस,
implication भी उसका नहीं है और वो that we can be used easily.
ट्रू ट्रू.
Yeah. Okay. So can we have few of surprising stories you found during your service tenure around this background verification services? You find some surprising cases and you saved actually your clients.
See, more, I don't even think it is something. I think every background verification can attest to that fact. And I think
Mhm.
NASSCOM did a survey in 2023 where it said that 17 or 18% of resumes resume in the chat GPT era, resume is a marketing document. It's not a real document, so to speak.
Mhm.
So you can, earlier we had to type out the entire resume, figure out everything. आज जॉब पोस्ट दिखा आपको, आपने वही चीज चैट जीपीटी या परप्लेक्सिटी या जेमिनाई में डाला, and you ask it to create a JD, create a resume which attests directly to that particular job post, and it will be done within,
Mhm.
let's say, 5 minutes or so. And
Mhm.
the research has also become pretty easy with AI now. So once that is taken care of, then
Mhm.
every resume ideally is a marketing document. So you need to know where the truth lies in that particular resume,
Mhm.
because just conversing,
Mhm.
you're dependent on human bias at that point in time, whether that
Yes.
person will ask deeper or whether that person will go in that extent to figure out what is sort of hidden in that particular resume. So if
Mhm.
17%, and in our experience, I believe 23% of resumes that we daily search ideally are found to have missing pieces in it. So if that is the deal, then that bit itself proves that most people essentially that go through background verification,
Mhm.
a lot of them will ideally have stuff that they wouldn't want the employer to understand or know. So those resumes ideally will have those elements.
Mhm.
This can be education as well. इंडिया में एक प्रॉब्लम जरूर है कि
Mhm.
मैं ये भी नहीं बोलूंगा सब लोगों को पता है कि वो
हाँ.
ऐसे यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ रहे हैं जो शायद एक्रेडिटेड ही नहीं है.
हाँ.
बहुत सारे लोगों को ये भी नहीं पता होता है. नाउ
That's true.
you complete your education, you paid all the fees and everything, and then you suddenly apply for a job and
Yes.
see this. इंडिया में एम्प्लॉयमेंट में भी बहुत टाइम गलत सैलरीज हो या गलत डेजिग्नेशंस हो या गलत स्टार्ट डेट एंड डेट, moonlighting, whatever it is. And I'm not saying any of these are let's say ethical or non-ethical. I'm not taking an ethical stand on it.
Mhm.
It's ultimately the company's policy. If you want to allow any of these things, great. If you don't want to allow any of these things and want us to verify, we will verify it. Ultimately, this is not yellow journalism. We will just give you the facts, and you are
Yes.
sort of okay to judge it as you want. But yes, some surprising stories ideally would be cases where we found entire identities being very different. So let's
Oh.
say a person who has given an identity of a person, but that person was somebody else altogether. So that ID is absolutely fabricated. We have found cases where a person has added multiple employments, and those employments were not real at all. And it is because of those employments that he got the job.
Oh.
So you understand that entire reason why he might have gotten the job
Hmm.
is probably because of that particular employment, which is fake. A
Fake.
lot of times we find issues with education document as well.
Hmm.
There's so many people ideally who do not complete their education or do not have any sort of fabricated, do not have real documents, so they fabricate documents.
Hmm.
All of those things happen. And while each of these cases ideally is probably in the hundreds or so हमको इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है, हमको इतना शॉकिंग लग रहा है, बट उस
Hmm.
पर्टिकुलर कस्टमर के लिए, उस
Hey,
पर्टिकुलर कंपनी के लिए जिन्होंने वो हायर किया है,
क्या है?
वो हायर करने वाले,
Hmm.
बिकॉज अभी भी आई थिंक प्री ज्वाइनिंग बीजीवी सबसे ज्यादा होता है, लेकिन
Hmm.
प्री ज्वाइनिंग पोस्ट ऑफर इनिशिएशन होता है, सो प्री ऑफर भी नहीं है कि
Oh.
आपने इतना टाइम इन्वेस्ट ही नहीं किया कैंडिडेट के ऊपर।
हाँ.
आपने टाइम इन्वेस्ट कर दिया, सब कुछ कर दिया, लास्ट में आप बीजीवी करवाने गए बिकॉज आपको वो चेकबॉक्स लगता है, बट वो
हाँ.
चेकबॉक्स नहीं है, वो आइडियली
नहीं.
हेल्थ चेकअप है, डायग्नोस्टिशियन है वो। तो जब
Hmm.
आप करवाने गए वो, when you actually went ahead and did it and you found all these discrepancies, ideally then you are sort of left with a decision to make at the end of the day. How do you want to proceed?
Yeah,
So
that
these
was.
cases are, yeah.
But you said very well, like that it's like a diagnosis before going to the big operation. You just identify कि ये operation सही भी होने जा रहा है नहीं.
True,
Correct.
true.
Okay. What challenges you actually face while like suggesting people like you should go for the background verification? What exactly the hurdles comes in your way?
Um, One is definitely that I believe now it has completely dispelled, but earlier, as I said, cost was a factor for a lot of people. Yeah, but even now, it's cheap. So ideally, I don't believe this should be. It's actually cheaper to do background verification than to hire a person. Truth be told, so
Yes.
ideally, that notion is already done away with.
Mm-hmm.
What's remaining is probably a company always feels that, okay, if we do background verification, then somehow it will impact candidate experience.
Mm-hmm.
Background verification, because it requires a lot of data and documents to process at the end of the day, a lot of companies believe that, hey, if we ask for so much data and documents, so on and so forth, insufficiencies will rise. And those insufficiencies, when cleared gradually, ideally can lead to a candidate's experience being foiled a little bit. But truth be told, द ऑपोजिट इससे ज्यादा खतरनाक है कि आपने ये चीज किया ही नहीं, जो शायद एक दो दिन का बात है, वो
हाँ.
आपने वो चीज नहीं किया, लेकिन एक्चुअल जो चीज कैंडिडेट आप हायर करके लेके आए, probably that particular person does not really have the prerequisite sort of cleanliness of data, so to speak.
Yes.
And उस पर्टिकुलर केस में आपको फिर वो रीहायर करना पड़ जाएगा, which is a bigger deal at the
Yes.
end of the day. So it's much better that you focus on this and create that.
Hmm.
एम्प्लॉय के एंड में सिंपल है, जो मेरा भी प्रॉब्लम था एम्प्लॉय के एंड में, तो थोड़ा सा द प्रॉब्लम इज, आई बिलीव दैट बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन इज नॉट पार्ट ऑफ द एम्प्लॉय हैंडबुक, सो टू स्पीक। जब किसी को आप हायर करते हो ना, ऑफ
हाँ.
कोर्स एम्प्लॉय हैंडबुक थोड़ा बाद में आता है, जब आप किसी को हायर करते हो, वो जो
हाँ.
पूरा बताते हो कि बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन है, एचआर जस्ट सेज कि आपका बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन होगा, वो जो पूरा जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है एम्प्लॉय को कि क्यों बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन हो रहा
हाँ.
है, एज अ डेटा फिड्यूशरी और अ डेटा कंट्रोलर देमसेल्व्स,
हम्म.
हम क्यों आपका डेटा लेके, जो लेट्स से डेटा सब्जेक्ट है, जो कैंडिडेट है, उससे
हम्म.
डेटा लेके हम क्यों एक डेटा प्रोसेसर को दे रहे हैं,
हम्म.
ताकि वो डेटा क्लियर करके आपको ग्रीन सिग्नल दे। ये जो पूरा प्रोसेस है, ये थोड़ा सा अगर हम कैंडिडेट्स को भी समझा पाए इन अ मच
हम्म.
बेटर सॉर्ट ऑफ वे फ्रॉम एचआर's एंगल एंड वाया देयर सॉर्ट ऑफ चेक्स, द चेक्स दैट दे डू और द कल्चर दैट दे वांट टू फॉलो,
हम्म.
उस हिसाब से अगर थोड़ा सा कर पाए, आई थिंक एम्प्लॉइज को भी इतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन से, because they will also understand rather than being thrown into a process which suddenly feels
हम्म.
questioning the criminal, so to speak, before they're labeled
Yes.
as a criminal. So yeah.
दैट्स यू वेल सेड, लाइक जैसे ही बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन किसी एम्प्लॉय के सामने उसका ईमेल आता है, विल यू विल गो फॉर द बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन, इट्स अगेन अ हेडेक फॉर एम्प्लॉय। दे, आई थिंक बहुत सारे को, बिकॉज दे डोंट हैव अ राइट इन्फॉर्मेशन, वो दे फील अफ्रेड कि मेरा बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन क्यों हो रहा है। So that's the thing. But I guess with this all education, people will come to know that it's not the
Yeah.
like nothing to harm them. And मे बी यू सेड राइट कि जैसे कुछ एम्प्लॉयज हैं, मे बी दे हैव सम mistakes they have made in the organization, and जो उनका पुराना एक्सपीरियंस सपोज रहा है, मे बी दैट बीइंग हार्श एक्सपीरियंस, डू यू फील
Yeah.
कि बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन जब करते हैं तो उन्हें इस चीज से डरना चाहिए कि उनका कोई भी, बिकॉज आई थिंक इट्स अ जेन्युइन थिंग, अगर उनका पुरानी कंपनी में कोई हार्श एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, दे अफ्रेड कि जब वो दूसरी कंपनी में जाएंगे तो हो सकता है उनका एचआर और उनका मैनेजर कुछ बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन के समय कमेंट नेगेटिव उनके बारे में कर दे। तो डू यू फील एम्प्लॉय को इससे डरना चाहिए, या नेक्स्ट कंपनी में जब वो जा रहा है तो ये उसे इफेक्ट करेगा?
See, employment is one case where we have seen this quite a lot.
हम्म।
Employment का issue ये है कि इंडिया में there is not a singular. Of course, everybody knows about relieving letter, service letter, and all of those things. But documentation, I wouldn't believe. I don't believe in India has reached to a stage where everybody's document looks exactly the same. हर
हम्म।
किसी का document अलग होता है. हर किसी का way of exit अलग होता है, थोड़ा सा अलग. Of course, basic डिटेल सेम होते हैं बट थोड़ा सा अलग होता है. उस केस में क्या होता है कि बहुत सारे टाइम पे डॉक्यूमेंटेशन भी इनसफिशिएंट होता है. प्लस इन योर केस दैट यू मेंशन, देयर आर केसेस वेयर द पर्सन माइट नॉट हैव अ क्लीन एग्जिट. नाउ we as a background verification authority can't take a ethical stand on it and say कि नहीं एम्प्लॉई सही था या पुराना एक्स एम्प्लॉयर सही था. हमने रीच आउट किया एंड एक्स एम्प्लॉयर ने कुछ भी फीडबैक दिया, whatever it is, be it bad, be it good, whatever it is, and we have to report it exactly as it is. Do not put any sort of masala on it. But in my experience, I have seen many HRs who are sort of the new HRs of that particular person had taken up with this management, and they all had accepted and talked to the employee and understood and then regraded those checks and moved on, so to speak. So employees को डरना नहीं है, employees को बताना है अपने issues के बारे में. चाहे वो कोई भी इशू हो, whatever experiences that they have had, which led to that unclear exit or unclean exit, they can be very honest with it. And in my experience, I have seen many HRs, and when I say many, I don't mean by a simple uh, count of hands. I basically mean a very significant portion of HRs actually are very, very sensitive to such things. They understand understand the issue of the candidate and they help them, so to speak. So employees को भी ideally डरना नहीं चाहिए. हाँ, उन्होंने अगर fabricate किया है documents, तो हाँ डरना तो चाहिए, तब तो fabricate करना भी नहीं चाहिए
और
था.
शायद इसी के लिए फिर हमारी सर्विसेज है. So we want to prevent them. We actually want to prevent to employer also, and we want to lead a fair employment for employees, I guess.
True,
Okay.
true.
So one more thing we were talking about recently, HRs. So जब वेरिफिकेशन की बात आती है तो HR के लिए ये एडिशनल वर्क हो गया. So I guess जब आप you must be like communicating with the HR people majorly. So how has been your experience? Like उनके लिए तो एक काम बढ़ा दिया.
HR teams in India, truth be told, are people who are multitaskers. They are expected to do multiple things. They are expected to do this, that, onboarding पे कर लो, L&D भी कर लो, अगर OD करना है तो OD कर लो, अगर आपको थोड़ा बहुत अलग से कुछ फेस्टिविटीज अरेंज करना है तो वो भी कर दो. एवरीथिंग. आपको अगर स्किल एडवांटेज, स्किल डेवलपमेंट करवाना है, आपको अगर कॉम्पिटिटिव स्किल मैपिंग करना है, जो भी है आपको एट द एंड ऑफ द डे एचआर कर लेगा. सो and within that there is also this background verification, then there is HRMS, there is ATS, all these tools not speaking to each other. So there's a lot to be told. At Spring Verify or Springworks, the parent organization, we have a very simple statement. All of our products ideally are meant to ensure that the HR's job is easier. That's our motion statement. That's the statement that we create products with. At Spring Verify, the focus is on background verification. At, let's say, Good Fit, which is our assessment platform, the focus is on creating assessment where essentially HRs can hire quickly without sort of waiting for the candidate to reply or any sort of other sort of hassles. At Engage with is our rewards and recognition platform, the same logic. Engage employees so that HRs don't have to manually track everything and sort of create engagement structures out there. But when I speak of just background verification is difficult on HRs as well, बिकॉज जब इनसफिशियंसी रेज होता है, जब टीएटी जब बढ़ जाता है, बिकॉज एजुकेशन में बहुत टाइम पे यूनिवर्सिटीज रिप्लाई नहीं करते हैं सही मौके पे, या पुराने एम्प्लॉयर्स भी रिप्लाई नहीं करते हैं सही टाइम पे, तो जब ये सब होता है उस टाइम पे वो एचआर टीम को कटघरे पे खड़ा कर दिया जाता है. बिजनेस टीम बोलता है कि why haven't you completed the background verification? Why haven't you done it pretty fast? But the problem is, it's not their problem. It's ideally, I would like to play devil's advocate. It's not our problem as well, and it's not the problem of the candidate as well. It's a structure where a lot of important checks are verifier led. कि आपको verification किसी इंसान से चाहिए होगा, not from a API. And problem क्या है कि उस इंसान के पास 4 और काम already है. तो वो इंसान भी verification का reply का late कर रहा है. So that is the entire process. But I believe स्प्रिंग वेरीफाई में हमने जैसे करके स्ट्रक्चर बनाया है, या बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन इंडस्ट्री जैसे इवॉल्व हो रही है, आई पर्सनली बिलीव एचआरस का काम ज्यादा आसान होगा, because with integration, with sort of instant background verification, with the way background verification has now become smoothened, insufficiency chatpat AI calls के through clear हो रहा है, AI calls are done to push the candidate or to tell the candidate कि ये आपका issue है, notification system जैसे HRs के पास जाते हैं, उस हिसाब से I personally believe their job will be become more and more easier as the day progresses, so to speak. But yes, that is still an additional thing for HRs to do. But हमारा वही है कि मोटो वही है कि कितना हम कम वो additional चीज को ऐसा बनाए कि HR बस कैंडिडेट को ऐड करे और बाकी सब भूल जाए, और उसके बाद रिपोर्ट उसके इनबॉक्स में आ जाए. इतना ही चेष्टा है हमारा.
I guess we talk about the digital education and digital document system. So we have a DigiLocker now in India, and that's been connected all the documents on a one place. I think that also help to do fast background verification.
DigiLocker does, but sadly DigiLocker only hosts around 10% of the documents issued in India. It is still not. And imagine, we are talking about an India where people don't have bank accounts. Still people don't have bank accounts. It's not like कि ऐसा नहीं है कि आप हर जगह पे जाओगे. But इशू क्या है कि एडुकेशन वहां पे भी हो रही है, जहां पे वो चीज नहीं पहुंची है, बट एडुकेशन हो रही है. पीपल आर कमिंग आउट ऑफ दैट एंड विद देयर हार्ड वर्क दे आर गेटिंग जॉब्स, व्हाटएवर इट इज. But at the end of the day, DigiLocker, and this is something that I believe before the podcast we are talking about, even though digital literacy in terms of infotainment has increased, कि आपको पता है कि ये OTT ऐप में ये देखना है, वो देखना है, but in terms of DigiLocker, in terms of other sort of mobile services that the government has introduced, I truly believe that literacy has not reached a stage where all the documents are hosted there. So DigiLocker is live with us as well. We do API-driven education as well to figure out if a document is present, and it gets automatically instantly verified. But because only 10% exists there, the rest 90% still has to go through a manual mode where we reach out to the university and the university responds back. And the university has no incentive to do it in a day. They are not going to do it in a day. They are going to take their own sweet time. And that is where the problem lies. But I believe DigiLocker will just get improved. It's not like वो कभी पीछे जाएगा, आगे ही जाएगा.
Correct. And I guess India is getting day by day more smarter in terms of digital education. And I hope that will go great. And what you feel like HRs के साथ में जब उनके पास उनके inbox में every time they landed with a employee verification email in their inbox, then again I myself have been HR और पुराने जितने भी exit employees हैं, because companies do even 2 companies verification, 3 companies verification, आपके पास पुराने employees के emails आ रहे होते हैं. So it's what is your message for HRs? How they should take these emails, like they should because it's a challenge again. वो अपना sweet time लेते हैं उसको complete करने में, What is your message for these HR people? Like, how should they react on these emails?
So this is a chicken and egg situation, right? At
हाँ,
the end of the day, what happens is that आपके पास आपने जो कैंडिडेट को ऐड किया है वो कैंडिडेट का एम्प्लॉयमेंट वेरिफिकेशन के लिए ईमेल गया है किसी और एचआर के पास. उस
हाँ,
एचआर के पास भी 3 कैंडिडेट्स और ऑनबोर्ड करने होंगे जैसे
correct,
आपको करने हो रहे हैं यहाँ पे.
correct.
सो फॉर देम द प्रायोरिटी लाइज दैट वे.
Hmm.
So ideally, that both of those are delayed. So the
Hmm.
way to tackle this is now I think every background verification company and we in particular
Hmm.
focus on something we call as alumni verification.
Hmm.
आपके एचआरएमएस से ऑटोमेटिकली कनेक्टेड हो ही रहे हैं हम लोग.
Hmm.
तो कैंडिडेट्स का हम होस्ट ही कर रहे हैं. आई थिंक आई मिस्ड यू अगेन.
Yeah, what is happening? Verification कर ही रहे हैं हम लोग पे. We were there. It's all internet is perfect. Then what happening? हाँ, तो background verification. हाँ.
सो एचआरएमएस के साथ ऑटोमेटिकली कनेक्टेड है हम लोग एंड उससे क्या हो जाता है जो डेटा जो देते हैं एट द एंड ऑफ द डे वो डेटा रह जाता है. सो जब भी आपके पास वो ईमेल आएगा आपको बस एक लिंक भेजना है. उस लिंक पे वो वेरीफायर जैसे ही कुछ अमाउंट पे करता है बिकॉज आइडियली यू शुड बी incentivized for that verification as well. That verification will be done instantly. So
Okay.
my only
So,
request to HRs is आप खुद मत कीजिए. आप बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन कंपनी को दे दीजिए अपना ओल्डर एम्प्लॉय का डेटा. वो भी
हाँ.
कर देंगे at the end of the day.
Oh, so that is also like added service
Yeah,
from the background verification
yeah,
services like this.
yeah,
So उनका
yeah,
old
yeah,
पूरा data आप दे दीजिए and they will
yeah, yeah.
do the rest part. Okay, so HR's
Absolutely, absolutely.
very fine. So does HR gets any incentives in this?
So imagine कीजिए कि टोटल कॉस्ट इस पर्टिकुलर चीज का एक्स रुपया है. लेट्स से इमेजिन करिए कि मैं वेरीफायर हूँ. मतलब
हाँ.
मेरे को आपके पास आना था एंड आई सेंट यू एन ईमेल सेइंग दैट सोमब्रोतो ने आपकी कंपनी में काम किया है कि नहीं फ्रॉम दिस टू दिस. तो जब मैंने वो चीज जब बोली है तो उस टाइम पे उस इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए मैंने लेट्स से एक्स रुपीज पे किया है. अब उस एक्स रुपीज का दो हिस्से होते हैं. एक हिस्सा चला जाता है बैकग्राउंड वेरिफिकेशन कंपनी के पास जो डेटा ऑफ कोर्स होस्ट करता है एग्जीक्यूट करता है मेंटेन करता है. एंड एक्स हिस्सा चला जाता है लेट्स से टू द एचआर and the organization. Why? Because of course unka data hai ultimately. So
Yes.
this is a system which benefits everybody. And why will I pay for it? Because I also want my verification not to be done let's say 4 or 5 days. I want it done today. Let's say
Yes.
I want it done in the next 1 hour. So वो भी
Oh.
issue problem हो जाता है. Issue solve हो जाता है.
So that can be the additional income for the HR people. Like
True.
they will be getting through this if they are doing their task promptly. I think earlier it was not there. My time there was not any incentives, but I guess now there is incentives for HRs also if they do this task promptly.
I don't know if there is an incentive for HRs. There is incentive for the companies in which HRs
Okay,
work.
okay, okay,
अब
okay.
वो flow down करता है कि नहीं करता है that the company can decide at the end of the day.
Okay, so companies get incentives. Okay, they maybe use that incentives for their background services again.
Yeah. See, one thing is that a lot of people that if you talk about myths regarding background verification, the worst myth which people do not understand is that background verification is a consent-driven task. With DPDP, this is becoming even more of a big deal. So the candidate is the data subject. The customer who is giving us money in order to do the background verification is the data fiduciary or the controller, and we are the data processor. Sometimes we can act as the data fiduciary as well, like when we host the candidate data or so on and so forth, but I'll get to that complexity later. So ideally, the candidate gives consent for background verification to be done, and background verification is conducted by us with consent or letter of authority from customer as well. And we conduct all of these verification and we host and retain that particular data for compliance purposes. And that data exit may in exit and in transit is completely encrypted. So ideally there is no leakage of data happening. So candidates sometimes get.
Is there any myth regarding the background verification services that उनका data leak हो जाएगा, कि employees का important data leak हो जाएगा? Is it so?
Yes, with DPDP coming in, I think now people are very much literate about their data as well. Earlier क्या था हम लोग कहीं पे भी कुछ भी वोटर आईडी कार्ड दे दिया, इसको दे दिया, वो उसको दे दिया, जो भी था at the end of the reviews to do. But now people are very much sensitive about which websites are hosting what data or storing what data or asking for details, so on and so forth. The younger generation probably a little bit more, Gen Z probably, but at the end of the day, the older people also have gotten into this habit. So please understand that background verification is a consent driven exercise. The candidate is the data subject who owns their data ultimately. So they own their data. The data fiduciary or the controller ideally is the customer who asks us to do the verification of the candidate on behalf of them or on behalf of their authority, and the candidate consents to their data being used by us, the data, let's say, processor, in order to give a background verification report. In this entire system, wherever data is exchanged, be it sensitive data, DPDP does not really get into sensitive data like GDPR does. But at the end of the day, every data like the Aadhaar card or let's say the employment documents, all of those as are regarded as sensitive, and all of that is properly encrypted and stored. Background verification companies do not suddenly take all this data and start disseminating or doing all of those things. That doesn't happen. So it's a
Yeah.
completely secure thing. Employees sometimes get scared. They're okay, I'm just giving my Aadhaar card and PAN card to this strange
Mm.
person. I don't even know this stranger who has emailed me. They should be rest assured that's not how. There are strict protocols that background verification companies do with in order for the data to be secure. And uh, let's say, why do they do it? Because the liability of a data breach is huge. So ideally, we are incentivized by that liability
Yes.
in order to keep our data secure. So
Yes.
yeah.
The major idea behind the background verification services, इसमें एम्प्लॉयर का सीधे सीधे क्या फायदा है, वो आप मुझे बताएं.
Background verification is not a HR problem. Background verification is not a candidate problem. Background verification is an organization responsibility as part of its risk management. आप किसी भी यूनिट को, लेट्स से कैंडिडेट को, आप अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एंटर कर रहे हो, उसको डेटा दे रहे हो, उसको काम दे रहे हो, आपके दूसरे एम्प्लॉइज के साथ इंटरैक्ट करने का मौका दे रहे हो, and you should have done your absolute due diligence and you should be prepared for that as well. Uh, and the only way to do that is via a background verification company. It will help you not just escape liability later. That's probably an after fact. It will basically help you be secure with yourself when you hire somebody, because you're hiring somebody whose background and whose past actions have been verified by a third party at the end of the day, with no involvement from the candidate itself or anybody else from your organization as well, no influence. So when that occurs, ideally it is one of the best solutions for risk management, ideally, that you can employ, because ultimately it will help you sort of mitigate any sort of discrepancies rising in the future, so to speak, from that particular candidate. So yeah,
Yeah.
and it's also not that expensive, so or not that time taking anymore.
Yes.
So
Yes.
why not do it?
Yes. So in the end, I guess we can say trust, but verify first.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how AI and automation helping in the background verification?
So background verification originally was a completely manual thing, which is why a lot of employers were not doing background verification, because पूरा प्रोसेस ही मतलब उतना ही था. लेकिन अभी एआई एंड ऑटोमेशन आने के बाद बहुत सारी चीजें सिंपलर हो गई एंड फास्टर हो गई है. सो लेट्स गिव एन एग्जांपल. आपने बोला एचआरस को ऐड करना पड़ता है, एचआरस को मैनुअली और एक लाइन आइटम आ गया है, वो सब कुछ की जरूरत नहीं है. वी इंटीग्रेट डायरेक्टली विथ योर एचआरएमएस. HRMS से candidate data directly flow hota into our system, and it flows back from our system as well. It's a
Okay.
seamless experience, and even candidates, when they get the let's say insufficiency, all of those checks, when it gets graded, when it gets QC'd, when an insufficiency is sort of positioned and delivered to the particular candidate via an AI calling that particular person to explain in their regional language
Right.
about what the AI is, about
Mm,
what the insufficiency is, all of that, because you might
mhm.
hire people who are not that proficient in English.
Yes.
So you have an AI, not a human, because of course a human can't know all the languages in India, an
Mm,
AI calling and delivering that particular message. And
mhm.
that entire process, and HR बोलता है कि नहीं, इस पर्टिकुलर केस में ऐसे आप अप्रोच करो चेक को, और ऐसे मेरे को नोटिफिकेशन भेजो. All of that thing is done via AI. That itself, I believe, saves time by uh, let's say days, not even hours.
Yes.
And of course, the final piece is instant
Mm,
BGV. पहले क्या था कि BGV को 5 दिन लग जाते थे बस
yes.
पहले चेक्स कोई कंप्लीट होने में.
Yes.
आज वो इंस्टेंट है, आईडी आपका इंस्टेंट है, क्रिमिनल
Mm,
आपका इंस्टेंट है,
mhm.
क्रेडिट आपका इंस्टेंट है,
Correct.
आपका एडुकेशन टैम्परिंग जो है डॉक्यूमेंट वो आपका इंस्टेंट है. सो
Correct.
व्हेन ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स आर इंस्टेंट,
Mm,
at least within a day you get to know okay, this particular candidate has the basic details verified, so I
mm,
can move forward with him. There
yes.
is much less risk of a leakage after that, as to speak.
That's too great. And I guess it's been too easy. तब तो employer को ये सब services के साथ ही अपने employee को आगे enter करने देना चाहिए. That's too great.
True, true,
Okay, so it
true.
was a pleasure talking to you, Soom,
Thank you.
and I guess this information will going to really help to our audience, the employers and the employees. Uh, they must understand the importance of the service in scenarios happening in India, and we already have seen many cases. कभी कभी रॉन्ग हायर हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एंटर हो जाते हैं, और आई थिंक वो इस बैकग्राउंड सर्विसेज की कॉस्ट से भी ज्यादा हमें महंगे पड़ जाते हैं. दे स्पॉइल आवर कल्चर, दे स्पॉइल आवर इम्पोर्टेंट टाइम and all the resources of the organization. So I guess that's a good choice. So people, first you trust, always we should trust, and it's a human, we have to trust. And before trusting, why not just verify and then go smoothly?
Sure, sure. Great, great. It
Yeah.
was great speaking to you, Akanksha, as well.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.